Welcome to the Practical Growth Podcast. I'm your host, E.B. Johnson, top writer on Medium.com, published author, and master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. You've landed on the podcast that takes you on a journey into the heart of relationships and self-discovery. This is a must listen for those who are ready to overcome their toxic relationships and their toxic patterns. You can expect real talk, practical guidance, and raw and relatable guests that you'll be talking about for weeks. Let's get into it. And welcome to the debut episode of the Practical Growth Podcast. Today, we are going to be talking narcissists. That's right, the internet's favorite buzzword, narcissists. What are they? How do we get trapped by them? And how can we protect ourselves from them? This is going to be the episode for you if you're dealing with a narcissistic family member, a narcissistic partner, or you're trying to recover from narcissistic abuse. We are going to be covering the ins and outs of narcissism, what qualifies as true narcissism, and how we can heal and protect ourselves from the narcissist in our lives. So, buckle up. It's going to be a crazy ride. You know, the internet loves to toss around the word narcissist. They really do. Like, you can look everywhere and you'll see narcissist, narcissist, narcissist. According to the internet, a narcissist is a selfish person. It's anyone who lies to you. It's anyone who cheats on you. It's anyone that just kind of puts themselves before you. But that doesn't really cut it, does it? For those of you who have been through narcissistic abuse or who are dealing with a narcissist currently in your life, you know that that is not what a narcissist truly is. They are a creature of a different making, and they have the potential to completely derail your life in indescribable ways. When you are truly in the throes of narcissistic abuse, when you're in the grips of a narcissist, it's like having your whole entire world uprooted by a tornado. It sucks you in and spits you out, and you don't even realize what happened until you are left with absolutely nothing. That's not really a definition, is it? No. So let's get into the true definition of narcissism and what the true narcissist looks like, because after all, we are uncovering the true narcissist in this episode. We're taking off that mask and we're revealing that true face. Now, a narcissist isn't just someone who's selfish. Yeah, I mean, all narcissists are selfish people, but not all selfish people are narcissists, right? The defining difference between them is a narcissist is someone without empathy. Now, narcissists come in a lot of different forms, which we're going to break down shortly, but primarily, they have a one-sided worldview. And that's where they lose their empathy. They can only see things from their perspective. They only understand things from the way they feel it, the way they see it. And there's no room for anyone else. And that is the big difference between a selfish person and a narcissist. A narcissist, it's black and white, and it's their way or the highway. Even if they're a covert, benign, whatever it is, narcissists lack empathy and they only see things their way. It's important to note that true narcissistic personality disorder is considered to be quite rare. It's thought that less than 5% or around 5% of the population actually has narcissistic personality disorder. But the problem with that is that most narcissists never seek help. And those that do seek help are able to manipulate the results of therapy and counseling. They're able to manipulate therapists and counselors. So it is understood that 5% is an estimate. New research has shown that societal factors can also increase or decrease this kind of occurrence of narcissism. For example, there have been a couple of big studies lately that have shown that narcissistic traits and narcissistic personality disorder is higher in countries like America, with a high level of individualism and a high level of division. But outside of this kind of lack of empathy or this inability to make space for others, how can we really identify the narcissist in our life? There are a lot of signs to look for. Some of them are more subtle than others, but in general, you want to look for someone who has a certain self-obsession. Now, this looks different depending on what kind of narcissist you're dealing with. Some narcissists are covert narcissists, and some are more overt. Some are malignant narcissists, and some of them are benign. In every type of narcissism, they come first. They want things their way. They want to be in control at the top of the pyramid, even if they have to do that by playing the victim. That self-obsession always comes out. It is just only their perspective. They're not concerned with how you're feeling or what you want, unless those things happen to touch on what they already want for themselves. Narcissists are also major manipulators. Even the big, grandiose, traditional stereotype of the narcissist that we've gotten really kind of familiar with, they manipulate people, they charm people, they love bomb people. They use people's secrets and their kind of wounds against them. This is a trademark of the narcissist. Even with the covert narcissist, a lot of emotional manipulation. They play poor me and they blame everyone for their problems. And that is how they are able to take power over their families and their loved ones. Maybe one of the most dangerous traits of the narcissist, though, is the boundary pushing. They push boundaries to figure out where your weaknesses are so they can decide how to manipulate you, how to push you over the edge and into the direction of whatever their desires are. And this boundary pushing, again, it touches on that empathy and that low standard of emotional awareness that narcissists have. They don't care how you feel, which is the primary objective of boundaries, is to protect your well-being and your happiness and your sense of safety. Narcissists don't care about that. So they push boundaries, they push you over the edge, and they disrespect you, and they disrespect you, and they keep doing that to see how far they can get. You know, it's interesting that I've got so many clients who come to me and we talk extensively about their relationships, and they will have years and years with someone, and they have no idea that the person's a narcissist, like full-blown devil may care narcissist. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason that they aren't really able to recognize the signs. And it's way bigger than just the insidious, subtle, kind of long-term growing manipulative behaviors that are kind of trademark of the narcissist. It's because narcissists take so many different forms. And most people don't know that. They think that a narcissist comes down to a big, braggadocious jerk. They think it's, the asshole down the street with the big truck and the bigger ego. But narcissists, like everyone else in this world, are a lot more complex than that. And they manifest differently in different situations, through different social groups, and even in the different relationships that they maintain with people. So instead of just kind of having this one singular image of the narcissist in your head, it's helpful to kind of think of narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder as a kind of tree. It branches out in all different directions, and those branches have all different kinds of shapes and textures to them. On one of these branches, we have the overt narcissist, which is the one we've kind of come to know. It's the big megalomaniac with the toxic, controlling relationships and the at once charming and also terrifying personality that we both love and fear at the same time. On the next branch, though, we would have the sexual narcissist. This is someone who really focuses on sexual forms of manipulation. They use physical and emotional exploitation in order to feed their sexual desires and their obsessive need for ego validation. Kind of way up on the top of the narcissism tree and a bit out of sight is the communal narcissist or the circumstantial narcissist. Now, these are very interesting figures. They don't always start out as narcissists, but they are people who end up in places of power and who end up with this kind of larger than life ego and this need to control others from this growing power they have in the community or within certain social groups. One of the most interesting and insidious forms of narcissism, though, is the covert narcissist. Now, this is the form of narcissism that my mother had, and this is a kind of hard to spot and really hard to address and deal with narcissism. In this form of narcissism, the narcissist is someone who plays the victim. Okay, they're not the big grandiose braggart. They are someone who is always in crisis. They are someone who is desperate for the attention and validation of others. They always have some kind of pain point that they need others to solve for them. Everything is the world's fault. And that is why their life is always falling apart. And they use this to garner pity and to create opportunities for emotional manipulation. Now, this is usually the point in the conversation where people kind of look at me with glazed over eyes and are like, well, what's the big idea? So what? You've got someone in your life that's just kind of obsessed with themselves. Just deal with it, right? But that's again, that is the difference between the narcissist and someone who's just self-centered. A narcissist isn't just happy with living within their point of view and you living within theirs. If you are in any kind of bonded relationship with a narcissist, if you live with a narcissist, if you are within their sphere of socialization, they expect you to conform to their way of view as well. Whatever they believe, they expect you to believe. However they behave, they expect you to behave. It's all about what suits them and their needs and how they want to appear. They have to protect that fragile, superficial ego, and you're a part of that if you're in their world. And that's why they become dangerous, because there are certain techniques and tactics that they use to gain this control, to manipulate you, to make you behave the way they want you to behave. When you are tied to a narcissist, you end up walking on eggshells. Your personality changes. The things that you want from your life change. You just lose touch with who you are completely. They will gaslight you. If you confront them about their behavior, they will deny it. They will alter your reality around you. There's no trusting the narcissist. There's no trusting them because they don't show up for you. They don't support you, but they expect you to show up for them every single time. They put aside your needs in favor of their own. And they will terrorize you, threaten you, and in some cases harm you if that's what it takes to get what they want. When we are attached to a narcissist, when we're bonded to them, when we're in a relationship with them of any kind, our world shrivels because they have to be at the center of it. And that's not healthy. And even if they don't immediately recognize it, they know that. So in order to maintain their control, they shrink your world around them. They socially isolate you. They will remove you from your family, your friends. They'll take you away from careers if that's what it takes to keep you under their thumb. And they don't care how they have to do that. It's usually very slow, very subtle. You might have a couple of fights about your mom coming over too much. And then before you know it, there's a rule. Because you have to respect the narcissist. So your mother's no longer allowed in your house. And then you're no longer allowed to call her as much as you used to call her. And then the text messages become a problem. It spirals, but it always spirals into a smaller world for you and more control for the narcissist. I think it's important that people understand as well, and this is a point that I always try to drive home when people don't quite understand the dangers of narcissistic relationships, is that you will always be the one to blame. Whether you're dealing with a covert or an overt narcissist, you will always be the one who gets stuck shouldering the blame. You have to. When things go wrong or, the narcissist makes a mistake, that's going to be your fault. You're going to have to internalize that blame in order to keep the narcissist happy and to keep their ego nice and inflated. It becomes a pattern, and it's one that you kind of fall into even if you manage to escape the abuse in the narcissist. You fall into this pattern of, it's always my fault. It's always my fault, so it must always be my fault. There is an inherent instability and insecurity that comes when you are in a relationship, whether even that's a family relationship or an intimate relationship with the narcissist in your life. That's just the way it goes. They have to keep this instability going in order to keep you under their control. That's emotional instability. That's mental instability. And if they have to, it will be physical instability as well. They will take control of your finances. They will threaten you, hold your relationship hostage, whatever they have to do to keep you uncertain of their love and affection for you. But just when you're ready to break, That's when the love bombing comes in. That's when the charm comes back in, and you get sucked right back into that relationship, and the instability patterns and cycles start all over again. The conflict, the upset, the dismissal, the demeaning, the insults. It all starts over again and again because this is the narcissistic cycle of abuse. So this brings me around to one of the biggest questions that I get time and time again, whether it's from my clients or it's from, readers and fans on Instagram and Medium. How does this happen? How does the narcissist trick me like this? How do they suck me in? How could I not have seen this? I'm a smart person. I've helped my friends through relationships. How could I have fallen for the trickery of a narcissist? That comes down to the stages of narcissistic abuse. This is the point you get out your pen and paper, folks, because we are going to break down the equation that a narcissist uses to trap you and get you under their control. This is their flypaper, their sticky trap, and we are going to expose it all right here and right now. Step 1, over-idealization. That's right. When you first meet a narcissist and they decide that you have something that they want, they come on hot and fast. They mirror what they think you want to see, so they will reflect your beliefs. They will reflect the stories you tell about childhood or even your little likes and dislikes like music and color and food. They show you this person that you fall in love with because they're reflecting you. And you immediately feel at ease with them, you feel more comfortable, and you'll find yourself saying things like, oh my goodness, we have all the same things in common. We believe all the same things. We even grew up in the same place. Sometimes these things are true. Most often they aren't. The narcissist doesn't really care. It's all about getting you into this false sense of confidence and comfort so that they can then break you down and make you easier to control. And that brings us to step 2, demeaning and diminishment. That's right. Once the narcissist has spent all that time and energy sucking you in and making you fall in love with them with all their charm and their love bombing, they start to break you down. This makes you easier to control. And how they do this is by targeting your self-esteem. You may notice that suddenly nothing you do is good enough. They might attack your appearance. They might pull away from you and make you start doing this really toxic game of chase for validation. The point here is to make you feel insecure about yourself and insecure about your relationship with them so that you start to crave that kind of idealized version of them that you fell in love with before. You will chase them. You will feel so uncertain about what you've done to make them behave this way that you'll begin radically changing yourself and your behavior in order to please them, make them happy, keep them around, keep them in love with you. It's a toxic dance. Now, the final stage of narcissistic abuse, the narcissistic cycle, is disposal. And this happens when you kind of start to wake up. If you start to question things, if you start to confront the narcissist, if they find you with a lot of books in your house about narcissism and how to handle it, that's when this phase kicks in. Now, this phase will either result in you getting back into line or it will result in you being forced out of the narcissist circle. More often than not, it's the first one. The narcissist will pull away. They'll completely withhold affection. They will go on smear campaigns with your friends, with your family. This is the point at which they destroy you. And they will do that however they have to do that, whether that's just through mental and emotional terror, or in some cases, if they have to do that physically. And again, the point here is to damage you so badly that you get back under their thumb, or that you are just plain out destroyed and you never present a problem to the world they're creating for themselves ever again. I really cannot tell you how dangerous and soul destroying this whole entire narcissistic cycle of abuse is. It really is. And if you haven't been through it, it can be kind of hard to understand, right? Because according to the internet, it's just like a jerk. It's just a selfish person. But that's not what we're talking about when we talk about narcissist, true narcissist, and narcissistic abuse. Because once again, a narcissist isn't happy to just live in their own little world while you just live in your own little world. When you are tied to a narcissist, when you are inside of their circle, they expect you to live in accordance to the rules of whatever reality they have set up. And what this results in is a destroyed sense of self for you, bottomed out confidence, constant internalization and self-doubt. You can develop insecure attachment in any future relationships that you have. You can reflect those narcissistic behaviors in your own life and future relationships, which results in absolute chaos. And perhaps worst of all, when you're really dealing with a toxic, malignant narcissist of any type, you're at risk for PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which completely throws your entire nervous system out of whack, on top of all the emotional and mental trauma and damage that it causes. Dealing with a narcissist is not a joke. It does serious mental and emotional damage. It leaves scars in the way you relate to others. It sets you up in toxic patterns that damage your future partners. They damage your career opportunities, and they damage your children and your family in indescribable ways. Now, there's mixed thought out there. Because interactions with narcissists cause so much trauma, there are those who think that there's no coming back from it. They think that once you're damaged from a narcissist and the abuse, that's it. You're just damaged. You're forever going to be wired that way. That's all she wrote. But I don't subscribe to that. I very much, as a narcissistic abuse survivor, subscribe to the idea that we can improve our lives, we can teach ourselves new ways of existing, and we can, in a way, heal all of that trauma and all of that abuse and all of that baggage. We can close the door on it so that we can live happier and healthier lives. And this is how we're going to do it. First things first, you need to arm yourself with understanding. You're here listening to this podcast. You're probably one of my readers. You might even be one of my coaching clients. If that's the case, then you're already on the right track. But there's no coming back from all the chaos and the turbulence of narcissistic abuse if you don't first figure out what the hell is going on. You need to understand everything about narcissism, how their brains work, how they attack, how they attach. And then once you understand that, you have to take a step back and you have to look at yourself. You have to understand what happened to you. You have to understand how trauma affects your body. You have to understand the patterns and cycles that you get thrown into emotionally, mentally, from being in contact with a narcissist for any length of time. Right? So we always have to start with understanding. It's an acceptance. You can't draw the map to the finish line until you know where you're at. So you have to stop, look around, accept the mess, and then learn how to clean it up the right way. Next, you have to lean into building on your sense of self-worth. You have to have a strong sense of self-esteem in order to confront a narcissist and in order to confront the recovery of narcissistic abuse. Knowing our worth is a powerful thing, and it makes us less willing to compromise on the things that matter. And that's exactly what we need when it comes to dealing with narcissistic abuse and the fallout that comes with being tied in any way to a real deal narcissist. You have to start embracing the fact that you are worthy and deserving of being loved and treated wholly with respect, with honor, with value. And those are all things that get taken away from us when we're in the throes of narcissistic abuse. So before you can go any further in feeling better about yourself, in learning new patterns, in finding new partners who treat you the way you deserve to be treated, you have to understand what's going on, and you have to know what you're worth and believe in that. Be willing to stand up for it, draw boundary lines around it, and tell people, this is where the line is. and you're not crossing it no matter who you are to me. Now, all of that kind of builds and builds so that we can get to this point where we feel comfortable building those boundaries again. Our boundaries are incredible things. They help us to safeguard our well-being. They help us to define our relationships with people. They create more stable and efficient environments for us to realize our full self in. When you rely on your boundaries to reaffirm the lines of who you truly are and what you want, you make it easier for everyone around you to understand what's expected of them. You have to lean into these boundaries if you want to defend yourself against future narcissistic invasions, or if you're ready to draw the line with a current narcissist that's in your life right now in this moment. To create these boundaries, you have to really get some time alone with yourself and think about what you truly believe in, what you truly value, what defines you, and how you want to exist in terms of the people that are in your life. You have to ask yourself questions like, how do I expect to be treated? What quality of person am I not willing to tolerate? What behaviors am I not willing to tolerate? All of these answers kind of go a long way in determining what matters to you and where your boundary lines are going to lie in terms of behaviors and the interactions that you have with other people. You need to have no-go zones, and then you also need to have active consequences when people go into those no-go zones. So when a narcissist crosses the line, you need to have consequences, and primarily that needs to involve removing yourself from them and their power and their manipulation. If you're someone who's been the victim of a narcissist, whether that's current or that's way, way, way back in your past, I always reiterate that it's important to make sure that you have support networks. Your healing is your job. It's your responsibility. You're going to be doing all the hard work and heavy lifting, but we're humans. We're social. Things go a lot better for us when we have people behind us, supporting us, encouraging us, and kind of picking up some of that emotional slack where it's important. Now, you can't just have friends and family who blow smoke up your butt all the time. That's not really going to be effective. Narcissistic abuse really does some serious damage to us mentally and emotionally and physically and socially in all these different ways. So that can also mean that you need to invest in the help of a counselor or therapist or even a coach. It depends on where you're at in your journey, but you need someone to kind of shine a light on the path ahead, someone who knows what they're doing, and someone who can help you practically and efficiently rewire these kind of channels that have been damaged in your heart and in your brain. And fundamentally, that's what, a support network comes down to. It is a whole village of people. It's experts, it's laymen, it's your spiritual advisors. It's all the people who help reconnect you with that sense of self. It's the people who can help ground you, the people who want the best for you, the people who see the best in you. And that will help you see the best in yourself again after the terrors of narcissistic abuse. But look, everyone's journey with healing and recovering from narcissism, after you've even realized it's happening and you've kind of been the victim of narcissistic abuse, their journey's different. We all kind of juggle these different steps in different ways. We take longer through different periods than someone else might. We might need more therapy than someone who might move immediately into coaching. We might have a huge support network, but we might struggle to kind of learn, understand, and acknowledge what's truly going on. But what's really crucial is that however you do this healing journey, it's got to end with a realization of self-love and self-acceptance. Above everything else, narcissists teach us not to love ourselves. They teach us that we're unworthy unless we are reflecting ourselves according to their godlike image. They teach us that we're unlovable if we don't play according to their rules. This just isn't true. You are very much worthy of love. You are very much worthy of respect and someone who honors you and values you and shows up to support you without being begged or without you bending over backwards and giving into some horrendous emotional manipulation that didn't have to happen. If you're going to move forward and you're going to be happy and you're going to be healthy and you're going to heal yourself inside and out, then you got to fall in love with yourself. You got to love yourself more than that narcissist who told you that you were unworthy. And that's an inside out job. That's not anything that I can give you. That's not anything that anyone else can give you. No spiritual guru, no guide, no book, no other podcast. It's an inside out job. You got to fall in love with your body. You got to fall in love with your mind, your spirit, and everything that you've survived to come this far. Because, believe it or not, it's a substantial thing that you have come this far, and you've survived, and you outlived the horrors that the narcissist heaped on you. That's an accomplishment, but until you learn to celebrate yourself and to love yourself despite the mistakes, despite the hurt, despite whatever pain you're in, you're going to keep falling into their traps, and you're going to keep ending up as their prey. So it's got to come down to a choice, and it's a choice that you can make right here and right now. Is this going to be your life, or is it going to be their life? When you fall in love with yourself, you'll have the answer. So what have we learned about the narcissist? Let's put it all together. Let's piece it all together, and let's kind of summarize what we can take away to make our lives better tonight or tomorrow or next month or whenever you're going to listen to this and apply it to the situation that you're in. What have we learned? A narcissist is not just a selfish person, despite what the internet would like us to believe. A narcissist is way more than that. They lack empathy. That is the number one defining difference between a self-centered person and a narcissist. With a narcissist of any caliber, it's all about what they want. It's about their needs. It's about being in control and making sure that everyone around them has something to offer them, and their ego that they're trying to project, and whatever needs they've decided that they want. Everyone is a reflection of the narcissist to the narcissist. And that means that they need to control those people in order to get the reflection that they want to project to the world. They're dangerous. No matter what kind of narcissist you're dealing with, whether it's malignant, benign, covert, overt, they undermine our self-esteem. They take away personal autonomy, and that's dangerous. They detach us from our sense of self, and we can just absolutely bottom out when we're the victims of narcissistic abuse. So it's important that we arm ourselves with understanding and learn everything that we can about narcissists. Coming here to this podcast is a good first start. Until we know how they work, we can destroy and undo the damage that they've wreaked on our lives. We have to be the ones to decide how people are going to treat us. So we use this knowledge to undo their patterns. We learn that we are worthy, and we understand that we have a right to protect our well-being. From that point, we can lean into our boundaries, and we can learn to celebrate who we are. We can build thriving social networks, and we can finally be happy on our own terms. But none of that happens until we face the truth and commit to thriving no matter what. You're not defined by the narcissists in your life. You're defined by your actions and the decisions you make right here and right now. So fall in love with yourself. Choose to fall in love with yourself. Choose better relationships and choose a better life. It's all in your hands. You get to decide what happens next. And that's a truly beautiful thing. And that is it for the Practical Growth Podcast this week. I really hope that you've taken something away that's going to help you improve your life, improve your relationships, and improve the way that you feel about yourself. If you want to learn more about narcissism and how you can heal from the effects of narcissistic abuse, visit me at my website, therealebjohnson.com, or check me out on medium.com. You can also get help dealing with your narcissistic relationships when you get coached by me. If you want more information on that, go to therealebjohnson.com. Did you love the podcast? Why not leave me a 5-star review? If you head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review, I am currently giving out free ebooks. So head over, leave your 5-star review, take a screenshot, email that to me, or find me on Instagram at therealebjohnson, and I will send you a tidy little ebook to help you improve your life even more. That's it for this week. I can't wait to see you back next week. Keep improving your lives. Bye-bye.